Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of The Conjuring Last Rites. So, this movie clumsily stumbles between hollow scares and sanctimonious sentimentality. It's kind of like two things combined into one. On one hand, we have this mediocre, incomplete family drama, and on the other hand, we have just spooky scares that are nothing other than trying to scare you, like jump scares. Like a lot of the movie is dedicated to just sequences like that. So, yeah, the plot is a repetitive series of set pieces that just kind of stall into the climax. I mean, I think they're aware they can't only do that, so they kind of pepper in these drama scenes every now and then. I don't know if they ever actually do a jump scare back to back, but it's close. And again, that is not a story. That is just a boo kind of thing. That's the whole scene. The whole scene is just boo. So yeah, the drama does introduce some substance. I actually kind of cared for about maybe 10-15 minutes there where they actually develop the family drama. But it's underdeveloped. They kind of introduce it and they develop it a little bit and then they just abandon it for a long time and then they kind of just quote unquote pay it off at the end. It's not earned. So yeah, it ends up feeling insincere and corny. Any half-hearted suggestions at themes like family or faith are just platitudes, empty, reductive, like counterproductive platitudes. They're not saying anything. They're just trying to posture like they're trying to say something, and the things they're trying to say are not helpful, I don't think. There's explanatory dialogue. A lot of the dialogue is either exposition or just explaining what they're doing. There's a lot of contrivances, like the whole conflict is just kind of yada yada. Like, it's a spooky haunted mirror, and it's tied to their past somehow, and we're not gonna like really unpack that. It's just all plot devices. There's a lot of characters, excessive characters, like this house full of people that are being haunted, and we don't get to know any of them. There's like way too many of them. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 daughters. Why not just have one? But they just, I don't know if it was like they're trying to be accurate or something, but it doesn't matter. There's just too many of them and it's just confusing me. There's fan service. There's like entire scenes where it's just like, oh, that's that character from that other movie. Wow. And then obviously it's just a tired formula. The whole thing is just this tired, like the thinnest conflict, the thinnest like formula there is. It's just barely a story. It's not a story, actually. I don't think it's a story. It isn't. Not really. The acting has some charm and layers, like I was saying, in that 10 minutes of drama. Like, oh, this is kind of a movie now. But that's so sparse. And the rest of the movie, they're just exhausting one-note intensity, where they're just screaming and yelling and, fighting the spooky ghost. So yeah, all that is to say that Last Rites is more of like a drawn-out carnival ride than a story. Because it isn't really a story. It's just boo. Technically, Last Rites is generic. The direction really blunders all the tones. It kind of jumps between, like I said, like scares and this like schmaltzy drama. But the drama is forced and the scares are very telegraphed. Like every time a scare scene started, I knew like, okay, they're gonna do a jump scare here. That's what this whole scene is for, and I'm just waiting for it, and I'm bored. The tones are just bland as can be. The cinematography has some surreal lighting and some interesting oneers, but it's also very dark and drab. Like most of the time, at least half of the time, it's very dark and very drab and just ugly to look at. The editing is very clunky. There's a lot of erratic pacing. Like I said, there's like aimless structure. They have these two plot lines where it's the family drama, where it's the main characters, and then there's also the house that's being haunted, and we're just kind of jumping back and forth. And it's very arbitrary. Like you could shuffle scenes around, and it wouldn't make a difference because a lot of the scenes are just spooky scares, and it's not like mounting. They're not leading into the next thing. And yeah, the editing or the pacing, like I said, is very erratic, where it's like that, like I said, that 10 minutes of the drama setup, that happens like half an hour into the movie. So I just am now like giving something to care about, but the movie's already a third of the way over. So that's kind of strange. So yeah, the whole thing was like this momentumless slog. I found it grueling to sit through. It was a challenge. And I sit through a lot of movies, and this one was particularly tough. The sound has subjective distortions and genre elements, but they did use a lot of stings, too many stings, and I found it desensitizing and annoying. The music is cliche scoring, nothing that I haven't. It's just trying to sound spooky, and same with the production design. It's all try hard spooky tropes. Like no one lives in a house that looks like this, and it doesn't make me feel connected to the characters. It just feels like I'm in a carnival ride where their house is just overly spooky, and all the things like this mirror that's attacking them. No one would buy that mirror. It is spooky. It's just looks like something you buy in a Halloween store. It's not. There's no like it really gets in the way of my emotional connection to these characters because I'm just being reminded that I'm watching a movie that wants to be spooky. The cast has these returners, like everyone knows these two people as the Conjuring people at this point, but I don't really particularly think much of them. Like Patrick Wilson, I've seen him in a handful of things now. He's just some average guy to me. And then they surround them with nobody of note. The newcomers are nobody that I'm really eager to look up. The effects they are abundant, but they're overly digital, so that undercuts the visceral tangibility. Like horror needs to feel intimate. It needs to feel immediate. And they have a scene where like blood is coming out of a sink. I really wish it was real, or not. Obviously not real blood, but like real liquid there that's made to look like blood instead of CGI. It just doesn't feel scary. It just feels like, oh, cool, like we're doing a spooky scene. So yeah, I think, and they don't just do CGI like that. They do CGI like around, like the house on the street is surrounded by CGI, which again alienates me as a viewer. I am further reminded that this is not a real family. This whole movie is fake. So yeah, overall, Last Rites just doesn't justify itself. This movie could not exist, and the world would be no different. It adds nothing to anything, really. And I know that the movie did well this weekend, and it has its fan base, and I'm sure there are people out here that might see this review and disagree hard with me, but I'm telling you, this is how I feel. And I'm just trying to evaluate it as a film, as like something that the craft and the art that went into it. Don't think there's anything here. It's just pure commercial schlock. So yeah, I didn't like this movie, and if you feel the way I do about films, then I would highly recommend you steer away from this movie because there's just really nothing here. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram linked in the description. I'd love support there or here. Whatever you can do, I appreciate. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.